To take advantage of the sentiment of amateur investors in a rising market, AMCs are known to come out with NFOs or new fund offerings while many companies launch IPOs or FPOs as the case may be. Now, according to another survey conducted by the All Mutual Fund Distributors Welfare Association, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, there was a question that was asked, which was, should mutual fund distributors recommend NFOs to clients with the markets at a lifetime high at all? So the answers were rather very interesting, which I will share with you viewers. 13% said yes, we should go ahead with the NFOs. 22% of the participants voted for the option. Depends on the investment objective of the clients, obviously, which makes sense. While the remaining 6% voted for the option. At this market level, a suitable NFO, depending on their particular choice, would be a better and a more preferable choice in the long run. Welcome or welcome back to the MyFund Bazaar Academy. Now that I have all your assured attention, I welcome you to yet another debut show that we have now started called the NFO Rush Hour. Exciting as that sounds, this hour is dedicated to the exclusive fund offerings AMCs provide investors like you and me with to make smarter, holistic financial decisions and definitely make smarter ones. And viewers, I do believe this is the moment that you have been waiting for. To break the ice, MyFund Bazaar is highly elated to have ABSL Mutual Funds team back on the platform and dedicating this entire webinar to, yes, you definitely read it right on our thumbnail, a business cycle fund. I know, a lot of excitement, a lot of happiness, and of course, a lot of questions. So keep watching the video. Now, before I get more into the NFO, I also want to tell you viewers that ABSL has also done the art of risk management and the right way to do asset allocations to exclusive shows just based on these topics, which might definitely pique your interest. And viewers, if it does, I am going to leave the links in the description box below. So definitely head there post watching this particular video with us today. So now coming back to why we are here in the first place, we have the regional head, Mr. Dhirendra Mohan Pathak for the Delhi NCR region, who will take us and tell us all further on the true nature of the NFO. So viewers, here's everything that you need to know about the ABSL Business Cycle Fund, and here is where I'm going to hand over the platform to the ABSL team. Over to you.
We will move to the business cycle, what exclusive is about the business cycle, and then have a Q&A session with Shruti. So business cycle basically refers to economy-wide fluctuations in production, trade, and general economic activity. These fluctuations in economic activities are measured by real gross domestic product growth and other macroeconomic variables. And a business cycle is basically defined in terms of periods of expansion and contraction. If you look at the slide, then changes in business cycles reflect changes in corporate profits, credit availability, inventories of unsold goods, employment, monetary policy, and economic activities. Each business cycle will have 4 phases generally, and the one is of expansion followed by peak, then contraction and slump, and everyone will have a different characteristic. If you look at the expansion phase, then growth rates will keep on rising, economic activity will keep increasing, and around the peak, the economic activity will stabilize. During contraction phase, the pace of economic activity will slow down, growth rate again will start declining, and around slump, you will see that growth rate stabilizes at a very low level, or economic activity is either declining or growing at a very slow pace. Business cycles have expected sequence of phases, typically alternating between expansion and contraction, and this is very recurrent. So here, if you look at, there are certain key indicators, and what happens to those indicators in different cycle phases like expansion, peak, contraction, and slump. If you look at economic activity during expansion, it increases. At peak level, it will stabilize, and in contraction, it starts declining. Similarly, credit growth, although it lags a bit to the economic activity, but behaves similar way through these phases. If we talk about inventory level, that it has a significant lag at the time of the beginning of the upcycle, and hence rapidly increases to expansionary phase. It continues to rise in peak, and then in contraction it continues to rise, but at a slow pace. And by slump, you will see that businesses are left with very high inventory level. So beginning of upcycle is driven by government capex around peak. Significant rise in private capex is witnessed, and through contraction, private capex start moderating. During lulls in the economic activity, it's usually government that spends heavily on capex, either through infra or industrial capex, to boost the economic activity. However, different economic indicators behave differently through various phases of the business cycle, which may also lead to difference in the length of phases and overall cycle too. So here, if you talk about dynamics and length of the phases of the business cycle, it will primarily depend upon the fiscal and monetary policy, the domestic as well as global events, regulatory changes, reforms, and also geopolitical developments. So this is where you see that when economy is growing, businesses will do well, margins will be good. They, and this trend is extrapolated by market, which gets reflected in market level, index levels, and valuations as well, and the sentiment prevailing in the market. Reverse happen during a downturn. With decline in economic activities, businesses suffer, market sentiments turn negative or fearful, thus dragging down the market level further. The market returns are definitely impacted by both the performance of the businesses as well as the prevailing sentiment. So when the business cycle, within the business cycle, there are also specific dynamics of an industrial capital cycle. It is seen that during an upcycle phase, there will be high ROIs and margins is different in different industries are there, which will attract new players and incremental investors too. This in turn reflects itself in exuberance in investors' behavior in the market. Rising competitions and capacity leads to gradually falling ROIs, which would further lead to first derating of the stock and then their underperformance. Further in the cycle, as you move, then capex begins to stall, firms will consolidate, some sell out, which leads to falling profitability, and again consolidation in supplies spurs demand too and further leads to gradual rise in ROI and margins, again leading to re-rating of stocks and prices increase, and that is where the cycle moves on. This particular slide, the sector returns vary through phases of business cycle, and if you see from 2012 to 2022, there is no particular sector which is leading. So every single year will have a different set of sectors which perform and different set of sectors which do not perform. And actually it will be the job of the research analyst and the fund manager to locate the right sector that which will do better and then create delta for us. Very interesting slide. This is a very interesting slide. In the red color, if you look at FY12, then in the red color is the bottom three sectors where there is a return of minus 26%, and the top three sectors are giving close to return of 17%. So even if we avoid the bottom three sectors, that is minus 26%, then we get a return of close to minus 9% in the portfolio. And that light green color is showing that if you avoid the bottom three sectors, then how much you stand to gain. And if you look at year by year, then there is enormous data which is created by just avoiding the three sectors. So that is what we are trying to show in this slide, that if you are choosing the best three and avoid the bottom three, then significant performance can be there in your portfolios. So here again, what we are saying is that cycles may differ. There will be different industries which will have their own cycles and dynamics, and also industry specific cycle may necessarily not coincide with the economic cycle. So it's very rewarding if you are able to locate the right sectors which will do well in a particular economic cycle. So here we are illustrating by way of different sectors that how the sector cycles differ and how do they reflect. So if you look at the 2012 to 2015 period, then there was a tremendous rise in the pharma because of the strong export growth which was driven by US, and later on new players entered into the market. There were a lot of sale in the generic market, a lot of people entered, but later on US FDA issues played out and the sector was underperforming. So even when there was a slump in the cycle, when defenses were supposed to perform, this sector does not do well because of their own issues. And later on, if you see, then when the COVID was there and things, US FDA issues went away, the sector did well, and which you look at in the 2021 period. So if you look at on the right side of the slide, then there are two constituents to a performance of a particular sector. The yellow one shows what is the contribution of EPS change in the performance of that particular sector, and the gray one is the PE change. What is the change of PE? So PE basically is the sentiment. So in phase one, there was the earnings also, and because of the earnings, the sentiments also contributed to the 202% increase in the pharma sector. But in the second phase, if you see, slight decline in the profits of the earnings to -9% led to huge sentimental change on the negative side, and the sector performed 53% negative. And later on in phase 3, again, when positivity returned to this sector, then 66% has been contributed by the earnings and 56% by the sentiment. So these two constituents comprise of the performance of any particular sector in the markets. Similarly, if you move to the IT sector, so initially you will see that 2012 to 15 was the growth phase of the IT sector. Later on, there were news that budget cuts will happen and higher training and reskilling cost will be there. Unique thing about this slide is that if you look at the right, then earnings have remained more or less similar in the second phase, third phase, fourth phase, and fifth phase. But there has been a change of sentiment, and because of the change of sentiments, primarily the earnings are driven because of the change of the sentiments. So if you look at the last phase, phase 5, there is a massive change in sentiment because everybody now believes that work from home cannot happen without digitalization, and most of the companies have started digitalizing and spending more on that, and that is why assumption that there will be a lot of earnings going forward has led to the 84% change of price in this particular sector in the later years of 2021. Similarly, if you look at the metal sector, metal is a classical cyclical sector. Earnings of this sector definitely depends upon the pricing, which is influenced by demand supply factors. So over the last decade, supply has been the primary driver of the price in metal sector as overall world economic growth was subdued. So you might have seen that in 2016, when in China there was a massive crackdown in the metal sector where climate change initiatives were taken, and a lot of policies were there like the blue sky policy, and then the shutdown of illegal capacities led to supply crunch and thus rise in metal prices in the upcycle of this sector. Later on during pandemic, metal prices fell to a level where it became unviable to produce. Also with focus on sustainability, ESG, etc., the investments into the supply side of capacities have reduced. And on the other hand, amendment in stimulus through fiscal and monetary policies worldwide led to sharp recovery in economic activities, leading to rise in demand, and imbalance in demand supply led to sharp rise in metal prices in 2021. Coming to the capital goods sector, again here you will see earnings are basically subdued, but there is a change of sentiments over a period of time which has led to the change of prices. So capital goods sector basically is a highly cyclical industry, and over the last 10 years, cyclicality of this sector has been driven by changes in expectation and valuation. The sector is still undergoing positive sentiments with expectation of revival in private capex led by PLI schemes and China Plus One policy, and also a strong global growth. Next, we come to the housing finance sector. So you might have observed a euphoria in this segment for about 6 to 7 years back. Companies witnessed a strong loan growth, competition increased significantly, and later the segment faced turmoil because of the funding crunch and increase in bad assets, leading to poor performance by the sector. FMCG again is a linear sector, a stable sector. It does not exhibit much of cyclicality and hence may be viewed as a classic defensive sector with secular growth trend. Consumer durables and cement sector, globally these sectors are known to be cyclical in nature. However, in India, there are secular tailwinds supporting these sectors. If you look at cement, then urbanization and consolidation within the industry has helped in growing demand and maintaining pricing power. And similarly for consumer durables, rising penetration, urbanization, and increasing formalization of the economy has helped gain market share and thus witness lower cyclicality. So, what is the benefit of business cycle investing? So, business cycle investing basically brings probability of better returns in investor favor by positioning the portfolio based on the expected phase of the business cycle. For example, during expansionary phase, as I said, cyclicals are expected to perform better. Thus, tilting the portfolio towards cyclicals will definitely help. Then, second is the pragmatic approach, identifying cyclicals as well as secular opportunities and endeavors to seize those opportunities will again add delta to the portfolio. Risk control will be there because if we are conscious of business cycle, it will help us avoid investment traps and thus enhance the risk reward proposition. So overall, the fund will constantly endeavor to take these favorable odds, pragmatic approach and risk control and thereby enhance the risk reward proposition. So if we talk about the Aditya Birla Sun Life business cycle fund, the fund positioning is like it is an open-ended equity scheme following business cycle based investing theme. Portfolio will invest across sectors and market caps. If you talk about suitability, then suitability will be for long-term equity investors with high risk appetite and investment horizon of 5 years and above. Investment approach basically will be that first we look at the macroeconomy, which will help us build a view on where we are in the economic cycle. Then we go for the sector selection. So sector selection will be identifying the stage of the business cycle and definitely which sectors are going to do well in that particular cycle. And thereafter we will do the security selection, which will be choosing industry leaders as well as the rising stars. So if you talk about investment philosophy, it will be a top-down approach to identify and ascertain the stage of the business cycle and then bifurcation between the defensives as well as the non-defensive sectors. So when you have to invest into more of defensive, when into non-defensive has to be decided by the fund manager, and accordingly we can take a call that what will do well at what point of time. So if you talk about the portfolio construction approach, it will have defensives as well as non-defensives, and active management will be there because we have observed that no particular sector is performing at a particular time in a business cycle. Different cycles, different years have different sectors performing. So it is the mettle of the fund manager to find out and the research team to find out that what sectors can do well and accordingly choose the top 3 and avoid the bottom 3. So different stages like contraction to slump, slump to expansion, expansion to peak, and peak to contraction will have overweights and underweight among the defensive and the non-defensives. So this is also a beautiful slide. It shows that segment-wise performance alternates through phases of business cycle. So sometimes during the expansion and the contraction phase, defensives are going to perform, and again non-defensives are going to perform at certain stages, and a mix of both of these can lead to providing delta to your portfolio. So if you talk about the pillars of Aditya Birla Sun Life Business Cycle Fund, it will be a balance between defensives and non-defensives. We will have sector positioning, then we will see that right companies are there in our portfolio. There will be no market cap bias or a style bias or a factor bias. and then selective global exposure to the tune of almost 20% will be there, depending upon what all the opportunities are available. So 20% will be a maximum cap. Primarily will be focusing on the India market. So this slide also shows that what is the state of the current economy. So we are saying that if you look at the macroeconomic indicators on the left side of the table, then gradually we are moving into the green zone if we move towards the 21 year 21 from January or maybe December 20, we move into the green phase, and that's showing that we are still in the firm expansion phase, and investing at this point of time will yield decent results going forward in 3 to 5 years time. So who should invest? As I said already, that risk aware equity investors with investment horizon of 5 years can invest into this, and this is an apt vehicle to take aggressive position in sectoral or thematic opportunities aligned with changing phase of the business cycle. So if we talk about Aditya Birla Sun Life Business Cycle Fund, the fund manager is Mr. Vineet Malu, Nitesh Jain and Vinod Bhatt, who looks after our overseas investment. Scheme type will be open-ended equity scheme following business cycle-based investing theme. Then the benchmark is S&P BSE 500 TRI. If you talk about, there will be a regular plan and a direct plan. Entry load is nil. Exit load will be 1% of the applicable NAV for 1 year. NFO date, start date is 15th of November and close date is 29th of November 21.
Okay, that was extremely insightful and quite in-depth. Thank you, Mr. Pathak, for throwing light on the new fund. So it is now time to quickly take up some news in general, since a lot of our viewers are really wrapping their heads around the possibility of opting for one. So if you're still doubtful, these FAQs that I'm now going to take up, a couple of questions, should really clear the remaining doubts that you might have. So with that, I'm going to start with the first question here. Mr. Pathak, our first question is that, quite like anyone who asks, what is in it for any investor for going ahead for taking up an NFO?
So if you look at NFOs keep on coming at different market levels, and even if you invest in a particular scheme which is existing, then also the investment is going to be made on the current values of the stocks. So either you invest in a current scheme or you invest in an NFO. Some people say that 10 rupees it's cheap. It's not like that. Anytime you invest, you are going to invest into the market. And being a business cycle fund with sector choice of top 3 and bottom 3, I think it is a good proposition which can make us invested into some few sectors which are going to perform well during a particular time in the business cycle, and there the clients may benefit in terms of higher returns.
Okay, so viewers, that's your answer right there. What's in it for you? For those of you considering for opting for the NFO, please do so. Moving on to the next question. Is it possible to do an SIP in an NFO, Mr. Pathak?
Yes, definitely it is possible to do an SIP, and one should do.
All right. Moving on. So what is the NFO period for ABSL?
15th of November to 29th of November.
Okay, so viewers, 15th November to 29th of November is the answer. Moving on to our next question. What is the difference between an IPO and an NFO, or is it the same thing?
So in an NFO, you will invest into a scheme of a mutual fund wherein your money will be invested into different sectors and different companies, whereas an IPO, you are investing into a particular company which is raising money from the market. So there you are having only one company and its risk and rewards, and here you will be having a portfolio in which there will be multiple companies across the sectors.
Okay, so quite the difference there, viewers. So definitely keep that in mind. I am going to take up one more question before I close this webinar. And the question is, I would like to sell my NFO at some point, and how could I go about doing that?
So you can connect with your distributor and then go for a redemption sign-off slip, and then move out of the investments which you have made. Online facilities are also available which you can make use in consultation with your advisor.
Okay, all right. Now, before I close the webinar, I would like to tell you, viewers, as Mr. Pathak himself mentioned, that the NFO is going to be live from November 15th to November 29th. And obviously, I'm going to be leaving the details of all of that in the description box below if it obviously matches your investment opportunity and risk appetite. Thank you, Mr. Pathak, for breaking down the business cycle fund impactfully today. Viewers, we would really love to hear from you in the comment section below. Any feedback, doubts, queries, anything that you might have, please share it with us and let us know what you think of the NFO Rush Fund Hour, our debut show with ABSL. Once again, thank you, Team ABSL, for enlightening all of us today. Thank you for your time, and viewers, we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.